Greetings. We are back. About time, right? All right. So it's been a crazy week. I know I'd said I might do a live show last week, but no, camp ended up being super busy. We were supposed to have 4.5 people on kitchen staff. We only had 2.5. And so we were doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner and 2 snacks for 45 people with 2 of us. So needless to say, I didn't get a lot done other than cooking. And so, but we are back. Of course, I left my microphone stand at camp, so I have this nice little janky setup over here. I can do this, but I'm going to get that back on the weekend. So we're just going to stick with this. Pardon me if the microphone picks up a little bit more background noise than usual, as I have to crank up the gain a little bit, but it should be all right. And somebody's like texting me just as I'm starting my show. Let's see what's going on about that. How's everybody doing here?
You forgot to cook dinner.
What? I cooked dinner. Actually, I didn't cook dinner today.
They're calling you back.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Doing well in New Hampshire, starting to get wet from the tropical storm.
Yeah, and I'm corresponding with a journalist. So some of you might know that a data association that I help manage had a disk crash almost a month ago, and an online paper has this. There is a fairly popular service who is down as a result of this, and the entire country is using it. So most of the counties and the municipalities is using this service, which has been down for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And now journalists are starting asking questions, so I might end up having my face in the paper.
Oh dear. Salvu has his face in the paper.
Not a good
First he gets
thing.
on YouTube, then he's going public.
Yeah, not a good thing unless you like the fame.
There you go, yeah.
I don't even like showing my face on the internet anymore.
Yeah, there you go. Pretty soon we'll see Dan show up with a mask. He'll have an anonymous mask on. He'll be a robe. This is going to be the end of the world.
If I get one of those, I'm going to be so tempted to draw all over it.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
It'll be funny.
Get a mask, put fun symbols all over the place, yeah. But yeah, we are back, and we'll get back into full-time regular content. I think Saturday I need to download the copy yet and play with it. Hopefully it works. But right now I'm planning a Cosmic desktop environment. Did officially drop in alpha this week. It was either today or yesterday. And so I will be grabbing a copy of that. We'll be looking at that on Saturday. Of course, Weekly News Roundup will be tomorrow. And then we'll be back with regular videos starting next week. Today I want to talk a little bit about privacy and living with a privacy-first approach, and always evaluating your options. As I picked up this fun little book here we'll talk about in a second. But anything else we want to cover before we get into that?
There is no privacy anymore.
Yeah, well, it's getting out there. I just saw a meme today on Zeducation. It might have been from last week. I don't know. I'm still catching up on some of the videos, but it was from New York Times. Like, warning, everyone's your email. Think twice before giving it. Of course, New York Times, their website is locked behind a sign-in wall that they ask for your email address. So it's that headline, and then you can't read it until you give them your email address.
Nice.
So it's just like, it's this beautiful summary of everything going on. So that is what it was. So we'll get to comments here in a bit. Let me start out by saying, I went down to Roanoke and after camp, because camp is not too far from Roanoke, and there's this little hole in the wall bookstore. So I found this copy of Fahrenheit 451 as a graphic novel. I'm like, okay, that's quite epic, right? So I decided I'm going to pick that guy up. Little hole in the wall bookstore. One of those nice little places. You chat with the bookstore owner, and she's all nice and stuff because, I'm buying a book and stuff like that. And so, we get to that checkout phase and she's like, well, what's your zip code? I'm like, well, I don't give out my zip code. Well, it's just so that we can know where we're selling books to. I was like, yeah, I'm just a privacy guy. I just don't give out stuff like that. She gets all mean and snippy at me. Finally just she has a bookmark that they give in their books. She throws the bookmark and they're like, throws the book at me. I'm like, lady, what is your problem? I just don't give out my zip code, and so... I end up throwing away your bookmark because I don't really care to remember what the store is called later. But I did get my wonderful copy of Fahrenheit 451 as a graphic novel. They did have a 1984 graphic novel, but that was like $30. I'm like, I'm not spending $30 on that. $10.
Well, Tom, if you would have bought the book online, they'd know where it's going anyways.
Probably, but I didn't buy the book online. I was in this little bookstore on the side of the wall.
Amongst all the other Amazon junk and everything else,
Yeah. Well, actually, Amazon, though, you can still order on Amazon. You can fill up your Amazon account with cash, and you can ship it to a pickup location. That's what I do with buying stuff on Amazon. I don't ship it to an address anymore. I just use their Amazon pickup locations.
While we're on the privacy subject, it is getting to the point where it is almost a second job to try and be private.
It is. And
it's overwhelming.
Yeah, and we've seen situations where people have suggested, and we're going back even 5 years ago, articles were saying, is privacy a luxury of the wealthy? Because you might have to pay all this money to do the various things you need to do, right? And that is the topic of our first bullet point, living with a privacy-first approach. How do we interact with the world? In my case, the very first step is I just have learned to resist giving out this information. And if people are like, well, we need to know your zip code, we need to know your email address. No, I'm not giving my email address, If it's not directly pertinent to the service we are talking about, I'm not really interested. Salvo, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember reading maybe 2 years ago. It might be a talk that I heard where someone said this, but there was I think it was a talk when he mentioned it's not Cory Doctorow, but this type of person talking about privacy and so on, and he mentioned a friend of his who bought something, or there was something that he was doing, and they were asking for his postal address, as because of the same reasons that the lady asked you about, and this person doesn't give out his address for anything unless it is important. So he gave out without thinking, and so apparently he has done this a few times. So he gave out 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., 2500,
yep.
Which is the address of the White House.
Yep. Yeah, that's just a good one. You can always also memorize the phone number for the congressional switchboard. That's a fun one to give out when they want to phone number,
That's a good way to get the feds at your door.
Not necessarily. You're just entering, you're just giving them the number. It's a good way to get the feds on their door.
Yeah. And if I remember the story correctly, he was also asked for a phone number, and he happened to remember the public phone number of the White House. So he gave that number and said, and this was during the George Bush administration in the 2000s, and he said that just ask for George.
Nice. There you go. Yeah, so it's like we need to resist giving up that data, So like, here's a fun tip from any of the grocery stores, or like, give us your number or whatever else. You know that most of the grocery stores, like there's only like 3 companies anyway that run all those. They accept any random string of digits. So if you're talking about just saving the money, now if you want the coupons and the data tracking or the gas points, yeah, you're gonna have to give them real information that you can redeem it later. But the reality is, I care more about my privacy than I care about coupons. In fact, I'm actually going to have to go and have a talk with the people over here at Valvoline, because they have started sending me these coupons. And I was very clear every time I went to their stores, because I really only get my oil changed out when I am not in state college. Otherwise, I do it all myself.
You and
I've
oil
always been very,
companies.
very clear with them. Don't ever send me anything. Well, now I'm getting these weekly coupons. I'm going to go in and rub them across.
It's because you're not getting any AMSOIL stuff now.
Yeah, well, yeah, but this is a separate case. So I'm going to be like, you know what? I don't change my oil because you send me a coupon, and I don't change my oil at your store when I am in town, and basically you're cluttering my mailbox. And I'm on the federal do not market to list for a reason, which actually works pretty well until some scummy company like this happens. So I'm going to go and be polite to them and tell them, stop mailing me stuff. And if I receive anything after, I'm going to give them like a 4 or 5 week grace period, because they, start the mailings out a month in advance. If after that they don't stop, I will just never buy anything from Valvoline again. I'm going to add it to my AMSOIL list. Back to, whoever else. All right, Dan, go ahead.
I was going to say, by simply using your bank card at a grocery store or something like that, they automatically know who you are, what you like to eat, and everything else. For example, I buy my groceries either at Kroger's or at Myers, and I use a card to pay for it. Mm-hmm. With at the end of the month, they immediately send me coupons in the mail of exactly what the stuff I buy all the time.
Yeah, that's why I use cash at grocery stores.
Well, I'm not gonna. When I go to the grocery store, I buy a lot of stuff. Especially when I'm at Myers, because it's a general store like Walmart. Mm-hmm. They have everything there. So I might walk out with $300. Well, I'm not going to carry $300 worth of cash on me. I just figured out too. Also, if you get pulled over and the police actually want to take you to jail or whatever, they can take your money and never give it back. It's perfectly legal. Yeah. They have to give you your wallet back. They don't have to give the money back.
Yep. We think you're using this for a criminal enterprise of buying groceries.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, I get that, but it is certainly intensified if you've given them all your information in a store card.
Right? I mean, even with a credit card, I use a credit card because Discover is really generous of giving me cash back every time I use it, and I pay it off every month. But either you get the money back or you have privacy and use cash only for everything.
Yeah, that's a sad reality. Yeah,
it is. There's trade-offs for everything. I've
just gotten to the point where I have trained myself to just not give out data, and if it makes me sound like a jerk, well, I guess I sound like a jerk to people, but I'd rather be perceived as a jerk to a random clerk than give up that privacy. But that's really part of what they are trying to do to us, is they're trying to get us to this point where we just second nature give up all the data. We second nature fill up every form that pops up in front of us. It's how they're trying to train us, and we got to push back against it.
We get a product and we got to be suspicious of every product we get now. Even a credit card, it's a product. You use it for convenience, you get some money back. They give you the money back because they want to track you using it.
And there's
use it even more.
The different credit card companies use AI in different ways as well. But Discover, MasterCard, Visa, they all share purchase history information with Google and Facebook to measure the effectiveness of ads and offline sales. It's very frightening.
You can't buy a TV nowadays that doesn't snitch on you.
Actually, no. When we were in Roanoke, my friend bought the last television in Roanoke that was not a smart TV.
Well, mine's a smart TV, but it's a very old one, and it seems that there's not very much money in app development for TVs.
And so they go insecure, and then the whole TV becomes a giant spy network.
So I had some leftover computer parts from when I upgraded this computer.
Hold on. We got Total OS today on. Greetings. How's it going, man? How's that caddy doing, man? But all these is a nice store. They don't ask for data. Yep. That's a good one. Absolutely. Anyway, let's I think that's kind of the living with the privacy first approach. That's everything I had there. Let me check in on other comments before we get in. We got 20 watching on Zatubies. We got KO2610. Greetings. CCJ, Jules on, greetings. Deep under the heat dome here at 102. Oh boy. 8-Bit Bunny, greetings to you. How's it going there? Bookstore used to go to, always try to push magazine subscriptions. Oh boy. Your opinions regarding the Zig programming language. I'm not a programmer. I don't know anything about it. Never heard of Zig. Oil change places charge so much, not for crappy services. Rather do it myself. Yeah, I use them when I'm not in my home area, because I don't have a place to change my oil when I'm not in my home area. But when I am here, I generally do it myself, unless the moronic place I had changed my oil over tightens my oil pin, in which case I have to get somebody to take care of that for me. I'm doing whatever the bosses tell you is up to them. They wouldn't do it. Yeah, this is true. Yeah, shop with the caddy. There you go. Smart TV is an older one as well. The new ones are just ridiculous with the spyware. Yep. Amen to that. We've got 26 on Zootubies now. We got 12 over on Odyssey. And the number I just gave out is 867-5309. I think that is the congressional switchboard. Ivan, are you showing more than 2 comments on Odyssey? I only see 2 over there right now.
Not just the number.
Okay.
867.
13 over on Rumble.
I googled this phone number that he pasted, and apparently it's a song of some kind.
A what?
It's
is that the number from that song?
Yeah, 867. Yeah,
yeah.
Don't want to catch copyright, so I'm not going to sing it.
Yeah. Well, hey, just don't play anything from the demonic Last Supper at the Olympics, and we won't get hit either. Yeah.
Rip America has got the 3rd comment on Odyssey.
Oh, we got a 3rd one over there?
Yeah.
3rd comment. Yay. All right. Rip America 2021. Yeah, that's about right. Rip America 2024 pretty soon here. I don't know. We have a bunch of old geriatric people vying for the White House. I got ads for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., pro-choice, progressive, Democrat. No, thank you. I'm not into the progressive. I'm not a pro-choice. I understand the Democrat position wanting to help people. I can sympathize with that point. So I just think the best way to help people is to help them help themselves. But I don't know. We'll see. But I'm not super excited about this upcoming election. That's for sure. Let's see. We got our second point is using our technology. Phones. Are we too addicted to our phones? Are we able to not be addicted to smartphones? So I have a friend that he's just like, I'm addicted to a smartphone. Can't deal with it. And so he got rid of all the smartphones and everything other than it's now everybody's on their phones. Great. All right, fine. I'll be on my phone too. And so, yeah, that's the thing. Dan, why aren't you on your phone, man? Come on. We need the whole panel here on our phone.
I barely use my phone. Matter of fact, I get very few phone calls a week. Yeah. But most of the apps are either uninstalled or I don't use them on my iPhone. The only thing I really use is the weather app that's on the phone and the music player.
Yeah. And I was at a friend's house the other day, and I was mentioning that on Graphene OS, I was having issues with the weather channel. So I can either access the weather channel through the Tor browser bundle because it breaks out of my DNS firewall, or I can use AccuWeather not on Tor because they block all of the Tor stuff.
Here's the difference: is my phone is not a full-size phone. It's it's like the size of an iPhone 7. I can't see it no more. I have to do this.
Yeah.
No?
So
it ain't no fun.
Anyway, I was mentioning that issue, and he's like, "Well, what about this app?" I'm like, "I don't use apps." Like, ew, apps. So the point is, some people are completely addicted to their phone, and the problem is that all of the various apps that we use are so tied in with all this data collection. The phone is the biggest source of data that these consumers get about us. Now, there's a few things you can do. I've been experimenting with Graphene OS with NextDNS, which allows me to fully control it. Basically, it's like running Pi-hole on my phone. And it works fairly well, a few little hiccups here and there, but overall it works great. So I'll probably do a standalone video about that, especially as ad blockers start breaking in Chrome browsers, which we'll get to in a minute. But then other people are too addicted and cannot get away with it. So I have friends that got rid of their smartphones altogether and are just going straight with dumb phones, which is way better for our privacy in all reality.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. So yours looks like a smartphone, but it's a dumb phone, right?
Yeah.
As far as your computers, if you're able to use Linux or another operating system you can really truly control, maybe BSD or something, are you willing to learn how to do that? Are you willing to evaluate the options to take those extra steps for your privacy? Recognizing that not everybody can switch to Linux full time and not everybody can switch to Linux for everything. But do you have that competency or the desire to say, I care about privacy enough that everything possible I'm going to use this system I can control, and I'm only going to use the Windows stuff on things I absolutely have to use the Windows stuff on? And that really is the central idea. So that's my thoughts on that. Any other thing to add to that?
Well, you could actually, if you're using Windows, install like VirtualBox. Or I wouldn't trust the Windows for hypervisor. I would see if you could use a third-party one. Then install Linux on that and do your web browsing and your secured stuff in that virtual machine.
Yeah. There's things that we can do to make things a little bit better for us.
And using the roadmap that Dan pointed to, when you use a virtual machine in Windows in order to test out Linux, then you can see if what you are wanting to do, even if it's a few tasks that you don't do very often, but you need to do them every now and again. Do they work on Linux and play along a little? And for those who are gamers and who want to try and run Steam games on Linux, for instance, install one of the recommended Linux versions and see what works and what doesn't work, and if that can be a satisfactory.
Yeah, even if we're not going full-fledged, full-on privacy mode Linux, any Linux distribution is going to be better than any Mac or Windows operating system when we are considering privacy. And then if you're like, I want to get better, then you can start looking into the better options to secure things a little bit harder and things like that. Go ahead, Dan.
When you browse in a virtual machine on Windows, the virtual machine itself, if you use the browser that comes with the Linux ones, and you'll find the virtual machine will be set up with a different MAC address that gets used other than the Windows one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's kind of a layer of security, so it makes it harder for you to be tracked. You want to try and put as much difficulty in being tracked and, manipulated and scammed and everything else is physically possible.
I hope you guys watching on YouTube are running an ad blocker of some form. This is the third time I'm seeing YouTube throwing ads in so far the video. I'm not doing it myself.
I ain't seen anything.
Yeah, it's like this is. I'm just monitoring the screen over here. This is the third time it's telling us it's cramming an ad in there, which we're going to get to that in just a moment. But I have one more thing under the technology, and that's other miscellaneous tech. Using trackers, tile, or air tags, or crap like that. Are you considering the safety and the smart tech involved in a lot of these things? Are you using smart home appliances that connect to the raw internet? Or are you using the better approach Louis Rossmann talks about, with his home assisted system set up where he has to access it through a VPN? He can still manage all the things he needs to access, but nothing is available on his smart home appliances on the open internet. And that's really where people are being sold the convenience. However, it ends up being a massive issue. Oh, we're getting another ad break in another 10 seconds for more people.
No, fine.
All right.
I'm not seeing it.
I don't know.
So now is the time to say see you after the break.
Yeah. See, after the break, where we talk about Manifest V2 and Chrome-based browsers.
What browser are you watching it on?
Well, this YouTube Studio tells me when it's about to insert a YouTube ad. Anyway.
It's nice to know my blocker is working.
Yeah. So if you're running a blocker, you're probably fine. Anyway, let's see. Check in on comments, because that's the end of our technology one. Let's see. You got Chrome OS is a speed demon. There you go. I wouldn't trust it, but okay. No doubts it's fast. Just bought a Pixel 8a. I installed graphene on that bad boy. These days, TV these days is a glorified monitor. Never use any of the TV features, let alone the smart junk. Yep. Control my T-Mobile 5G gateway. I have 3 different apps on Android. That's one of the concerns I have switching over to doing something like a Starlink, is everything on that's like app based. I'm like, really? Can I install that app through like F-Droid or something? Or am I going to have a stock Android phone floating around to access the thing if I want to do that route? Just got off a 3-day writing spree. Ooh, a 3-day writing spree. That does remind me, though, if you all the supporter networks, I haven't opened it up. If you're on any of the supporter networks, even without paying, I open them up on all I could publicly to submit an answer to the poll as to what our book should be called. And let me grab our options. I have 5 options right now on most of the polls. A few of them I can only have 4 options on, because somebody gave me the other 2 options. I think it was Uncle Bonehead gave me the other options for later, which I liked. But let me see if I can get to
Bonehead's ones were pretty good. I kind of liked them.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can run with those. All right. So here's the 3 I had from previous conversations: technological misadventures, Shortcut to Mischief, which so far is winning many of the polls, but I hate that title because it's not descriptive. We have Misadventures in Technology. And then Uncle Bonehead gave us more. A Machine Paradox, Digital Paradoxes, Glitchborn. But the 2 that I've put in consideration is Code Red, Stories from the Dark Side of Tech, which I really like that one, and Digital Dystopia, a collection of dark tech tales.
Nice.
I really like that. So
that one sounds really good. Any
of our supporter networks, sign in and let us know which of those you like the best. I want to get the title hashed out early to mid next week, and I have the order of the short stories right now that I think is best, and I'll mention those at a later post. But yeah.
So does that mean that he has some boneheaded ideas?
So if you read all these short stories, you'll never turn on a computer or get on the internet ever again.
The goal. Except to watch Switch to Linux. Then, of course, you can do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather use Internet Explorer 6 than Google Chrome, personally. There you go. Just can't mention the full name of it here. Wait, what is it? GR blank blank J blank blank. Yeah, you can't mention that word on the tubies anymore. I may as well talk about my best friend Cody, And we got 14. Let's see, what do we got over on Odyssey? Got 10 over on Odyssey. We got 14 over on a keyboard. Can't keyboard properly. All right. Some of you saying it's the wave of the future or some other dribble. Rust is bad in my car. Watching this on my smartphone. Looks as what, 3 to 4% market share. Just got YouTube Premium, so he hates himself. No, that's fine. It's the legitimate way to not get ads on YouTube, right? I might consider it when in the future. I don't know. We'll have to think about it. Let's see.
I wouldn't give Google a dime. They're already a multi-trillion-dollar conglomerate.
Many ads YouTube is pushing now. If I was a web server, this would be a DDoS attack. That is true. All right. Last section I had in my notes was software. This is, of course, Dan sent me this article, which is a nice one. If I can find it. Hello, there it is. All right. From NeoWin, uBlock Origin developer recommends people switch to uBlock Origin Lite as Chrome starts flagging the uBlock Origin extension. Now, this is because they have officially started to roll out the depreciation of Manifest v2 and replacement of Manifest v3, which means a lot of your ad blockers are going to stop working well because of the serious limitations that v3 has, which would basically force them to limit the number of ad servers they could block by a factor of like 100% or like 100 or something. I don't know. It's a massive decline. So this is a pair down, but uBlock Origin has said they are not going to be automatically forcing people from uBlock Origin to uBlock Origin Lite, but eventually you will update your browser when it updates itself automatically, and it's simply going to disable your ad blocker if it can no longer work. And Google plans to finish the migration of Manifest v3 by the end of 2025. Enterprise customers will have the ability to continue using v2 extension for 6 more months. Mozilla is the only mainstream browser maker that does not use Chromium, and it does not plan to ditch Manifest v2. So all of those extensions will still continue to work under Mozilla. And I was actually, Firefox listed out, they had a comment on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it today. And I was actually going to send them a comment back, but then my computer crashed and I couldn't find the post again. I was effectively going to tell them that, number one reason people aren't using Firefox is because they've made a lot of really dumb decisions. But number two, they really have not jumped on to heavily promote that their ad blockers are not going to stop working in Firefox. And so that's one of the things they really need to do, is to push out that all these things are going to continue to work. Now, I did look into a little bit more because there's just a lot of question about what's going on under the depreciation. So this is a change in the Chromium base, not Google Chrome itself, which means all Chromium-based browsers are going to be impacted. Vivaldi has said that they are going to support Manifest v2 at least until June of 2025. Although that might be a little bit later than that, being as that the rollout of v3 is later than anticipated. Brave has said they're going to continue supporting it as long as they possibly can, but I didn't see any update as to when that is. But it is of note that the Brave ad blocking system is not dependent on Manifest v2 or v3, and so Brave's ad blocking system continues to work unchanged. It's not related to how these extensions work as it is. So this leads us to one of the best ways to cover this, not just for your web browser, but your computer as a whole. Running Pi-hole or no-track, running PF blocker or PNG, whatever, NG blocker on pfSense router. There it is. I got it. That's the one I do personally because I'm running pfSense. But also, I'm going to do a video about this in the near future. You can block all that kind of stuff locally on all your devices by using the NextDNS filtering system and setting your computer to use NextDNS. I've been testing that out on the Graphene OS phone for a while. It is actually working really well. And it does update itself better than me manually updating my custom host file on Lineage, although there are a few downsides that occasionally NextDNS goes bad and my phone can't find the internet for a little bit when that happens. So there are options that we can do, but when you're talking about privacy, one of the best things you can do is block all this nonsense because A, how many malicious ads there are, and B, how many of these ad networks harvest your data. And that really is the fundamental issue. All right, you guys have any comments on web browsers or things like that?
Yeah, I'm still using Firefox, and I see no reason to change.
Yeah,
I use Firefox, and here's something: anybody that's out there that's got a smart TV and no longer want to use its smarts or is thinking about buying one, round up all your old computer parts and put together a working computer. I used when I upgraded my computer, I kept all my old parts. So the computer I had for my TV, I upgraded that. So it's all got 2018 style parts in it, AMD. Mm-hmm. What you do is Firefox, you can use that and set it up as it's your Roku. Make it so when you shut down Firefox, it does not erase all your tabs and everything. And when you start it back up, all the tabs come back up the way they were and logged into all your streaming services. I have not come across a streaming service yet that doesn't have a web UI user interface. So I got like two paid ones and three unpaid ones, and maybe even more than that run right through Firefox. And Firefox is one of the few non-Google browsers that has DRM enabled in it, so you can watch paid shows and stuff like that, and paid streaming services. So you can make a streaming service computer for your TV. I went one further and got all the pieces from FlatHub. It includes Make MKV, and I bought a license for it a while back, and VLC and all the attaching components. So VLC uses MKV to decode all the Blu-rays and all the DVDs, and there's a Blu-ray player in the computer, so I can put a Blu-ray in it and use VLC to watch it that way. So you can build stuff to get further away that's from the thugs and more of your control.
Yeah. Commodore fan says Peacock won't work in Linux no matter what browser you're using. You have any experience with Peacock?
I don't know. I haven't had an itch to try it.
Yeah, me neither.
I have Paramount Plus. I have, since I have a Google or an Amazon. Since I have an Amazon account, I have Amazon Prime, so that works fairly well. Tubi works very well. Pluto works pretty good. Yeah, Tubi works pretty good. Prime, Netflix works great. Matter of fact, they have the best user UI.
Yep.
I prefer the Netflix user interface over all the others.
Yeah, there's actually a Netflix skin for Kodi. A friend of mine's running it. We rebuilt his computer running Linux Mint, and he got that working. So it looks pretty nice over there on his.
I've had Hulu before, but I canceled Hulu because they had nothing left on it I wanted to watch.
Yeah, I can't bring myself to buy any of these streaming services. Like, sorry, no interest in your.
The Paramount Plus is pretty cheap with ads. Little do they know that ad blockers do work with it.
Yeah.
That's another thing you can add to your thing. If your Roku is giving you ads, you set up a Firefox browser and fix that.
Yeah.
The only thing that I can think of regarding this Peacock is that because on Firefox this is different from dependent on the distribution. So in some distributions, DRM is by default disabled in Firefox.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and so he might have to look in the configuration in the settings of this to see if he needs to just enable DRM.
Well, if that's the case, Netflix would not work, and Discover the Discovery Channel wouldn't either.
Yeah, it's just a setting to turn on in.
And what happens when you enable this is that on Firefox at least it will download the plugin that it needs, which on those distributions is not installed by default.
Yeah. So of course there's other browsers based on it. LibreWolf, Mulvad browser, WaterFox are examples. LibreWolf, I believe, does allow you to install extra extensions, although I'm not sure DRM is installable on it. I'm not 100% sure about that. I haven't tried it. Mulvad browser does not allow you to install any extra extensions because the principle behind that browser is to make every instance of Malvad browser look like every other instance. So adding extra extensions would be a fingerprinting tool. So, but those are other options you have as well. But yeah, like Dan's point though, you can keep Firefox for your browser to do all of those other things, and then just use the other browsers based on Firefox for other things that are not signed into accounts without DRM and things like that.
Yeah, I can't test Peacock with actually buying into it, and I don't think they won't let me see what they even have. I mean, the page comes up and everything, but I can't get their. Well, yeah, there is their menu. You can look through their junk and see what they have, but.
So is there a free trial account option?
No, that's what I was looking for. I'd have to actually pick a plan and buy it. And it's $8 for one plan. That's the premium, and the premium plus is $14.
See what I can find on that.
That's all they're showing is the premium and premium plus plans. There's no free plans, no free trials. You click on pick a plan, it wants you to buy something right away.
Well, there's a Tech Hive article from just a couple weeks ago, a sneaky way to get a Peacock Premium free trial.
That might be useful.
Let's see.
I've also noticed on a lot of these streaming services, like some of them have the same shows on them. Like Netflix is showing a show that was made by CBS and aired on TV called Evil, but Netflix only gives you 2 seasons. You go over to Paramount Plus, they have all the seasons, all 4 of them, and the last one coming
Okay,
up.
here's how it is. Instacart comes packaged with Peacock, and you can get a free Instacart subscription trial with no credit card required. So if you sign up for Instacart, you can get Peacock for free with it.
Well, then you still have to sign up for something.
Yeah, but you can sign up for it with a throwaway email address, most likely. So let's see on its own prices.
So I did some Googling. So I Googled Peacock and Linux, just those 2 words. And the first hit I got was a Linux setup guide on the peacockproject.org, which seems to be the Peacock website. So they do have official guide on how to get this working.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. How to watch Peacock on Linux. Let's see if we can get a brief summary. That looks more like
that is the wrestling forum. The link name is simply titled Linux Setup Guide in the.
I mean, you can. I know Roku, their original streaming stuff that's for free. It does work too on Firefox. So I suspect if you have a Roku account, it should also work without using a Roku box.
Hey, these guys say they have Peacock running on FreeBSD. So if it's running on FreeBSD, I'm pretty sure we can get it.
Yes.
I'm pasting the link to the page in the YouTube chat here.
There it is.
All right, let me drop that in everywhere. All right, so
I didn't do it.
not me either. All right, so there we are. We have that in there. All right. So yeah, that's one. The next one I had under software is Office Suites. Are you using the expensive data collecting versions, or are you using the free options or the privacy respecting options? Do you have to use the expensive ones? You know, if it's like, well, you have to use Microsoft Office because your whoever's telling you that doesn't know LibreOffice exists. Are you using it because you have to? Or are you using it because there is some diamond in the rough feature that happens to have that LibreOffice doesn't support, which is not particularly likely. Now, the issue ends up being, and we've had people, subscribers on our channel had mentioned in the comments several times, they were required to use Microsoft Office and use LibreOffice the whole time. It's very simple. Number one, make sure you're using fonts that Microsoft normies have installed on their computer. Number two, set your LibreOffice to save as docx files. And then number three, use LibreOffice.
But there are people who actually do need to use Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
My mother's husband, he is 72. He has been working in IT in the same company for maybe 45 years until he retired a couple of years ago. And he has so he learned to use Excel or spreadsheets for almost anything. Computing or sorting data and so on. And he actually tried to import those Excel sheets into LibreOffice. And on each instance, on almost every spreadsheet he tried, LibreOffice just crashed. It wouldn't work.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some rare exceptions, but that case is so niche, it's does not cover most situations. I recognize that there's obviously some weird cases where you have to use it, and if your work is paying for it, whatever, you're
and I also suspect that it might be the formulas that he's using. So I suspect that if he had started doing LibreOffice back in the day,
or he could look at those sheets and rewrite the formulas to be compatible. That is one of the issues of some of the more advanced formulas on LibreOffice are not the exact same formula as you have on Excel.
Yeah, and one use case that he actually has is that he has formulas in a spreadsheet and he has multiple panes or pages of referring to each other. But he also has a few spreadsheets that is fetching data from an other spreadsheet file that is not open in Excel at the time. So he is one of the really advanced Excel users.
Well, for the 8th time, you guys on YouTube are about to get another ad. So,
Boy.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, give you the warnings up front. Let's see. Check in over here. We got 24 watching on Zatubis. I didn't leave track of where I was. 54 ads and 3 lives, says Rozzy. Brave U-Block Origin Pie Hole. There you go. Let's see. We covered that comment.
What's the equipment requirement for a Pi hole?
I mean, Raspberry Pi. I think you can run it on any other computer as well. It was just originally designed for the Pi hole. And then what you would do is you attach that to your router, and then you use that as your DNS server on your router, which also allows you to do DNS over HTTPS in a local controlled environment as well. So it's actually, and you can do it. It takes so low power. You can do it on a Raspberry Pi Zero. So you can do it on like one of the $20 Raspberry Pis, and it won't cause any problems for you.
Yeah, I've got it running on one of these guys. This is a Pi 3.
So I'd have to redesign my network to put it in between everything.
It's just one line in your router setting. Is what it is.
Yeah, where do I get my Wi-Fi and my cable connection to my computer?
So usually
you use the Wi-Fi from the Pi?
I would just plug the Pi directly into the router. You can just plug it into any of the the other router ports.
I don't have a router. My modem is my router.
Does it usually one of those modem router combos you have will have probably 4 LAN ports, right?
Yeah, there's 4 LAN ports.
Yeah, just plug it into one of the LAN ports.
Yeah.
And then you do an internal loop to say get the DNS from this IP address, this local IP address.
Oh, okay.
That's how it works.
You plug it in and then screw its marbles around.
Yeah.
Essentially,
And
yeah.
then just
It's
go
like-
into your router and just say, this is where our DNS is coming from.
Yeah, it's like you could use the Wi-Fi on the Raspberry, but it's not recommended.
No. Excuse
Oh, I think Dan went muted and then disappeared. I think Dan was just abducted by aliens.
Yeah, that or you want to go plug that in.
Possibly. There you go.
Yeah, I have a strong suspicion that Dan actually have a social life without asking us.
There you go. Yeah. Odyssey this week. Odyssey dropped all ads on their platform altogether. And then they've been promoting that all week on social media. So if you completely hate ads, Odyssey, because they think that their next approach, they think their upcoming plan, which I haven't seen details on yet, is actually going to cover that, all their costs, which would be really cool. And actually, I have somebody donating regularly. You can actually subscribe and donate to the channel over on Odyssey, and that goes right to my bank account. I think they might take 20%. Somebody takes 20% out, but somebody is donating regularly on that. Thank you to whoever that is if you're watching. But yeah, those actually get deposited into my bank account like every week or month or something. I forget what the frequency is. Malbrad, Waterfox, yeah. Brave is still working fine. Don't think that Jersey Mike's is one that makes me hungry. Sick, yes, but definitely not hungry. I was thinking about buying Jersey Mike's the other day, and then I realized how expensive they are. I'm like, I don't really want to spend money on food right now, I got plenty of food in my refrigerator. So, which my refrigerator has finally stopped running for the first time today.
Oh, wow.
Night of Light came in late. Greetings. Let's see. Just streaming services that don't run on Linux, like Peacock. I think that's the only one I've heard of, but apparently some people have it working. It's just a little bit harder. So, had to use VM for running Windows to use it myself. All right. So we'll have to see if we can't work that free way around and see if we can't get into Hulu or Peacock for free and test it out just to see if it works.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Night of Light says paid movie services will become useless because soon there will be no internet. They're getting ready for World War III, so keep useful ebooks around. There you go. So what do we think? Is the World War III going to start? And are we all?
It only takes one EMP.
Yeah, and then your ebook won't work.
Yeah.
It's true. Got to keep your physical copies of Fahrenheit 451 around so you can read your
Yeah, is
physical
that the
copies.
nuclear Holocaust novel?
Yeah.
Tom, is that the book about nuclear Holocaust?
Oh, what about it?
The book you just handed down.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Well, it's not necessarily the Holocaust as much as it is a super pro censorship society. Kind of like we're seeing right now.
Yeah, but to those who are so if World War III really does start or some EMP goes off, about 20 years ago, the Pentagon, some branch of the Pentagon, I think it was Pentagon. It was a U.S. military project. Anyway, they actually tested 20 of the most popular car brands at the time, just to see what would happen if an EMP actually did go off. And they used an EMP of roughly about the size of what a nuclear bomb would use, and a few of the EMP bombs. And depending on the car, on some cars, they were dead and would not run. But most cars, nothing happened outside of maybe the entertainment.
When was this done?
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And the findings were that if your car, like the hood and the doors and so on, the roof was of metal, almost nothing would happen to the car. In the worst case scenario for those cars were that you needed to turn off the ignition and then we started, and everything
Yeah.
would be back.
Yeah, that would hold true with older cars that have point ignition systems in them,
Yeah,
and the
More
charging
YouTube ads
system.
going in now.
And the charging system would have to have a mechanical regulator rather than a electrical one to keep working, or else the car would still run, but the alternator would quit because of the electronic regulator. But
yeah. So
if you have points in the car instead of electronic ignition, it'll continuously run, with an EMP. The radio might get fried. You'll have to, your
yeah,
AM
so
radio
Pull
will
it
be no
out.
good.
yeah, so in the findings, in the findings, there were some were surprised, and some found it like it was as expected. So for those cars who did well, the car stereo might be having some problems, but or some would die. But the car itself, like the electronic systems of the car that kept the car running, they were all fine. Of the cars, which all the outside plates or were of metal, because the car functions as its own Faraday cage, which absorbs and shields the inside from the effects of an EMP.
Yeah.
But modern cars like Teslas and so on, which
They'd
use
be totaled.
which but for this article, I saw this a month or two ago, and they cited this, and they said that, and they used the Tesla as an example of a car who is much more plastic in some parts. The plastic doesn't do any shielding. You need so if you have an older car, which is of metal, keep it running. So if you are of the kind who is worried about what would happen if keep an older car, which is mostly of metal, and it will mostly be fine.
I'm wondering, like, if an EMP hit, how would it impact all the things inside my van? Because my van basically is a giant metal shell in multiple layers, because we have, of course, the outer metal shell, but we also have all of the vibration. We have the vibration absorbers all inside as well. So there's a whole separate layer of aluminum behind all of my walls.
Well, maybe it would depend on how strong it was.
Yeah, and then also, do I have up my window blinders or not? Because my back window blinders also have metal in them as part of their insulators, and of course the front ones have metal insulators. So it'd be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah.
And Dan was abducted by aliens again. So
yeah. Hopefully we won't live to find out. But
yeah. Sydney asks over here, is there any movie platform for security paranoid? No DRM allowed, all open source, no vendor locked firmware. Nothing that's pre-populated with movies that's legal. But you can always create your own Jellyfin server and populate it with your own physical content, with digital copies of your own physical content. That would be a way around that.
Yeah, and then you also have everything that is available on YouTube, whether it's legal or not available on YouTube. Yeah. Because the vast majority of the videos, even long form, is available without a login, so you don't need to pay anything in order to watch it. So that's my parents.
CCJ says he's sailing the 7 seas for no DRM. So
yeah, I saw that. And then I saw just a couple of lines down the code 2610. He cited a line from Rammstein.
Converting those Excel in some way to some Windows VM, yeah, I can't say I'm up on all my Rammstein stuff, just a little bit, but I tried RISC-V already. Can we get it to work and watch 4K video on YouTube? Don't know. Ads and free speech don't mix. There you go. At Firehouse tonight. Ooh. I've only had Firehouse subs once, just because I never tried it and there was one nearby. Rather eat at Taco Bell than Jersey Mike's? Oh boy, that's desperate. Let's see. EMP will only affect areas where it's used. You're living off-grid, far from cities. Your computer will probably make it. Yeah, there's not a huge radius. Well, I'm getting ads for Indiana elections where I live in Vegas. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that.
But in 50 seconds, you guys on YouTube are going to get another ad.
Yeah, for another Indiana election ad.
They really want you to vote for those Indian politicians. Or Indiana politicians, there you go. Hope Dan doesn't get a backdoor probe from all the Grays. Oh, yeah, he's out again, so I don't know.
And the same Co 2610 says he has one car designed in the 1930s. There is no EMP that would kill it, which is true.
Yep.
A lot of the cars from that era has a hand crank. So if the battery and everything died, the hand crank would still start the engine.
Ran Pi-hole on VM on my home server. Yeah, you can run Pi-hole on a VM as well. Is your refrigerator running? Better go catch it. No, it stopped.
And it's also the fact that if an EMP goes off, it doesn't kill everything electronic. It kills chips, electronic transistors, and so on. So CPU, those boards might get fried. But everything that is like flashlights, and they are not affected in any way. So an old car that doesn't have any electronics running the system, apart from the distributor feeding the spark plugs, those will work just fine, I think.
Yeah.
So.
CCJ says, miss those cars. You got somebody pushing, you just pop the clutch. Yeah, that's just your manual transmissions, which are a dying breed in America these days.
Yeah, actually, I remember doing that 30 years ago. Help people to push their cars because something was wrong.
Yeah.
The battery was flat or something. Right. It was actually no problem.
Well, we are past 8, so I think we're going to wrap up. Of course, this time tomorrow, we will have the weekly news roundup. So swing on by 8 o'clock tomorrow for the weekly news roundup. Don't forget to vote on those polls. Let us know what the name of our science fiction short story book should be called. And I'll be collecting those and already working on a few cover designs, but I need the title to get the cover design done. So we need to figure that out. And let's see, other than that, I don't know. I guess we'll have anything else we might want to say or announce. We will do tomorrow with the weekly news roundup. Anna Rita's on. Anna Rita, we're just wrapping up. I'm sorry. Yeah. But tomorrow this time, Anna Rita, if you are around, we'll be doing the weekly news roundup. Joel says, are politicians aliens? Says some guy in the sky. Of course they're aliens. I'm an alien too, though, so it's all good. We are all buddy-buddy back there, you know. I'm just not allowed to tell people what's going on in the political sphere. I've not chosen that route.
Yeah. There is an important a tip in Rumble that Kokik has. He says that he is thinking about printing a bunch of survival stuff just in case of an EMP.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So if you have some information that is stored on a computer that you actually would depend on if something happened, it's a good idea to have a paper copy of it.
Yep.
That's really good advice, everyone. And we're going to wrap up the show here. And we will see you tomorrow for the weekly news roundup, where I'm going to get some kitty treats.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We will catch you guys later and see you tomorrow.